All right. And we're recording. Of course, everything
Sounds
will
good.
be slightly edited in the end. Maybe some pauses, maybe some disconnects. You never know what's going to happen. But let's
Definitely.
start. Bradian, thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us, and congratulations on the Solana hackathon and all the beautiful things that you're building.
GM, nice to meet you. Thanks for connecting, and I love to be here.
Tell us a little bit about you, about the team, about the project. Give us a short TLDR of what Hawksight is, the elevator pitch, if you can.
Yeah, sure. TLDR, Hawksight started with a simple mission to solve a very simple problem that everybody, including us, faced. We saw the power of DeFi as a key to financial freedom, but we also saw that DeFi was very fragmented, it was very opaque. The user experience was very broken as well. So Hawksight sought to solve this problem statement with a mission to make DeFi accessible to everyone. So what we decided to build was what we call a Solana DeFi Navigator. Basically, it's a one-stop shop for users to easily get the best yields on USDC or SOL across aggregated DeFi protocols that we automate. Whereby we automate the yield strategies in one click. So users could simply go to Hawksight and then they could earn on USDC or SOL through a bunch of yield sources from, say, crypto lending, liquidity providing, NFT lending, and a bunch of derivative instruments as well, eventually. So that's a project. And the team consists of 15 full-time contributors based all around the world, mostly in Asia, although we're all remote and we hop around as well. I myself am focused more on growth and business development, and our co-founder Enzo is focused more on the product development side of things. A little bit about our backgrounds as well, of how we started. I personally come from a Web2 B2B SaaS, software as a service background. So my experience is in scaling software products globally. Whereas Enzo, our co-founder who's focused on product development, his background comes in AI for finance. So he previously built AI software for a bunch of financial institutions and enterprises. So how we really came together was through, again, just a simple thought process of how do we take his ability to build powerful software for financial institutions and marry that with my skill set or past experience in scaling it to the masses and making it accessible to everyone. And that's how we started with Hawksight.
Beautiful mission, and I think you both have like impressive backgrounds. I think you can bring quite a lot to this Web3 space and DeFi in general. And how did you end up building in Solana? Is this your first venture into launching something on Solana, on crypto in general, in the space?
Um, yeah, as a builder, yes. I think follow up on your comment. Honestly, Solana attracts just the best builders in the game, right? Everybody has a bit of imposter syndrome. Everybody is just Chad Gigabrain and just a shipper over here. And so I guess going back to how we started to build on Solana was, I think the idea was first planted in late 2021 or yeah, late 2021. And then we started by building a fintech software as a service platform, providing trading signals for Forex stocks and crypto. But the majority of the adoption came from crypto, over 95%, in fact. And these were not your Bitcoin or Ethereum hodlers. Most of the users were these degen traders, shitcoin traders as well, people who go into DeFi and NFTs. And that's when we realized that, hey, we started as a Web2 SaaS fintech platform, but we should really go into building a crypto native or a DeFi app, essentially. And then when we did our research and looked at a bunch of other similar projects or products, mostly on Ethereum, we realized that Ethereum has a lot of scaling issues. They had issues with like slow transactions, high transaction fees, and whatnot. And we came across Solana and thought this is the most scalable platform with the most promising future to build on. And so, actually, fun fact as well. I think when so we never won a Solana hackathon. Fun fact, and honest confession over here. And the funny thing was, when we signed up for the first Solana hackathon, our product was premature. We hadn't built anything on the smart contract, so we did not qualify for it. And then we continued building, building, building. And then when the next hackathon came about and we applied, we already fundraised, we already had backers, we already had a mature product. So we were too mature to participate in the Solana hackathon. So at one point we were too early, at the other point we were too mature. But somewhere in between, we won a bunch of other crypto hackathons as well, but just not the Solana ones.
I see. I mean, it happens a lot, especially when those hackathons require you to start the project 30 days prior, or you only have a limited amount of time to actually build. Yeah, it doesn't apply to everybody, but I'm glad you stuck around and you're actually. I have already launched. So many products, so many things are happening. Could you tell us a little bit about what is live at the moment, and we'll talk a little bit about each of the products that you have live and their target audience, who should be using what. Yeah.
Sounds good. Yeah, sounds good. So I'd like to really highlight the core product over here, which is the DeFi app, which is the Solana DeFi Navigator, where anybody could go to hawksight.co, simply deposit their USDC or SOL, and earn the best yields or APYs from all the different yield sources of all these blue chip DeFi protocols in Solana that we integrate, and not just integrate or aggregate like a yield aggregator, but automate in one click. So it's easy for these users to not just earn from a specific DeFi yield strategy, but also switch in one click. Because as we all know, or as most people who have experienced DeFi know that APYs or yields fluctuate a lot. So there is value to having a one-stop shop where you can see all the yields, find the best yields, and then when there's another best yield, you could easily just one-click switch to maximize your earnings for USDC or SOL. So highly encourage everybody to check out Hawksight, the core DeFi app. And then of course, we have a bunch of other ecosystem utilities, site products, features that we experimented on as well. So interesting learnings and findings here is that what is suitable or what has highest demand in a bull market or a bear market is not necessarily the same. So for example, if you look at our white paper or our website, I think there's some from earlier Medium articles and tweets and whatnot. We have things like AI trading signals. We talked about degen pools and things like that as well. So a lot of these things we experimented during the bull market, and there was significant adoption. There was lots of interest as well, but it's not necessarily what serves the users in the bear market. So for example, one of them is the degen pool, which is tied in terms of incentive and value accrual to the NFTs as well. Initially, I'll take a step back to explain the Hawksight degen pool. Is the idea is that we have quote unquote a yield aggregator where it's easy for people to earn yield. And then we wanted to build a bake-in gamification on top of these yield aggregator by launching a degen pool to gamify these yields. Similar to what you've seen or what people have seen as successful case studies on Ethereum and also on BSC, Binance Smart Chain, where you have Moonpot built on top of Beefy Finance. But then we realized that the appetite for this kind of product is not as big in this kind of market at the moment. And so we have to constantly adapt and evolve based on market demand. And so we actually found a bigger opportunity, and this is something we're focused on. So instead of building a gamified yield aggregator on top of Hawksight with a degen pool, why not we focus our efforts on building and launching an SDK where we can empower other platforms, other DeFi gamification platforms, other wallets, other DeFi platforms to access all these different yields on Solana. So on one hand, we feel like this is going bigger and being more ambitious with the reach for Hawksight, and also will drive better value accrual to both the NFT holders and the token holders as well. So I'd say just a quick recap before I move to the next one. We have the core DeFi app, and then we are about to launch beta for the SDK with some wallets and partner protocols that are interested in integrating our SDK. And then lastly, what we recently experimented on is also an AI-driven product. So it's called Hawk AI .xyz. It's basically a platform to automate DeFi risk management. So the fact that Hawksight is already integrating and have to monitor the flows of funds across all these different DeFi protocols, it is a natural expansion or extension for us to do risk management and provide risk analytics to make sure, back to our mission, making DeFi accessible to everyone and help users make well-informed decisions when they deposit into DeFi protocols, and risk disclosures is
So you
part of
you
it.
does it use some kind of metrics? Like, do you provide some kind of Sharp ratio to the user? How does what does risk management, or is it some kind of dashboard where you monitor your uh, pool
Yeah.
positions or your whatever is there to be claimed, or whatever, if you've lent some money to a borrowing protocol? What do you mean exactly?
Yeah. Yeah, so Hawk AI is essentially a bespoke risk monitoring dashboard for the DeFi protocols. But then, so it serves two purposes. One is it is for better risk management for the DeFi protocols themselves, but it also helps boost transparency and confidence for their communities as well. So we just started experimenting on this. We have a pipeline of DeFi protocols we are in discussions to integrate with. Although we recently have secured our first project, whereby we got a mandate to build this dashboard for Marinate DAO as well.
Wow, wow! What an
Yeah.
esteemed partner. That's a fantastic collaboration over there. Big
Long way
alpha.
to go still.
Going going back to the main product, which is the one stop shop for yield strategies. Just I'd like to understand a little bit on how do you actually choose the yield strategies? Who's behind? Who's the author of these strategies? And a little bit about what's already in place. Which what different strategies are there, and what flavors can a user actually pick?
Yeah, definitely. So decentralization is always a work in progress, and there has to be phases towards decentralization where anybody could just simply contribute or in a self-service way integrate their own strategies and integrate their own DeFi protocols. But then, as is the case for most protocols, in the early days, you need a lot of early contributors to curate, right? So when we curate, it's based on a lot of different risk metrics, and I wouldn't say KPIs, but just metrics in general. It really depends on the protocol. So, for example, a few top of minds are like whether the protocols are open source, whether they're audited, whether they are a blue chip, well-renowned protocol on Solana. Do they have high TVL? Do they have high liquidity? Have they existed for quite some time? Because the longer they've existed shows that they've been battle tested over time. So if you go to hawksight.co, you'll see a lot of the familiar names for Solana DeFi. You'll see players like, let's say, top of mind, Slen, Francium, Tulip. Recently, what's very popular is NFT lending with Frac because they generally produce high or relatively higher APY opportunities for sale. And then we'll continue to integrate with a bunch of these DeFi protocols on Solana. Our next big focus is Camino, and then Orca as well.
Yeah, all very very popular OG projects in Solana. So this goes through some internal vetting. There is no standardized list. There is no uh, the protocols will approach you to be added in a strategy, or you will actually handpick them from the open market. Let's say. Uh, are you planning on actually opening these things to the public? As you said, yeah, decentralization takes quite a lot of centralized steps to reach there. But
Yeah.
Is the plan to, in the end, allow strategies to be tailored by the user 100%?
Yeah, eventually, yes, definitely. Especially since, well, specifically for Hawksight platform, we could say we are early on a lot of these Solana DeFi protocols on Solana. Sorry, a lot of these DeFi protocols on Solana are early as well. It takes time to constantly refine the platform and curate it in the best way to provide the best user experience. User experience is key here in the sense. For example, like as much as possible. Again, one-stop shop, right? The platform shouldn't discriminate in any way. Technically, theoretically, ideally, all DeFi protocols or all key Solana DeFi protocols should be integrated with Hawksight. It's more a matter of which one we want to curate and focus on initially, and then expand to the rest. So, for example, in terms of this natural progression, some simple considerations include like, for example, we focus initially on stable yield sources, like stable Sol yield sources and stable USDC yield sources. But then as we expanded and as we, grew our user base in terms of total depositors and TVL as well, we saw that there was growing demand for non-stable yield sources. Let's say, people want to liquidity provide in Sol USDC, which yes, there's always risk of impermanent loss and whatnot, but that is the challenge of building this easiest but most powerful quote unquote yield aggregator platform that has everything but also helps users make well-informed decisions by showing where the yield comes from, coming up with standardized risk disclosures and risk metrics for users to know exactly what DeFi product they are interacting with.
You spoke about lots of Solana protocols and strategies involving Solana protocols. Are you looking towards cross-chain strategies as well?
Exchange strategies, we are open to it. So, I mean, we've been it depends on the flavor of the season, right? I remember during the bull market, people were asking, "Oh, are we going to expand to near?" And then afterwards, it was, "Are we going to expand to Aptos or Sui?" And we have to make sure we make prudent decisions to think for the long term, right? So it's kind of like, in principle, we are open to it, but then based on the current priorities, there's still a lot more potential on Solana. So the answer is yes. The question is more of when, and we don't know where yet exactly. Although, if I may add, that's why we see Hawk AI as a very interesting experiment as well, because as an analytics tool for DeFi risk management, that is a low-hanging fruit to expand into other chains and basically land and expand, and start building on other chains as well. So that is what we're thinking of more. For example, building DeFi risk management dashboards on Solana, and then starting with Hawk AI with the other chains first, instead of building Hawksight, the native DeFi app on other chains.
By cross-chain, I was mostly meaning if you bridge some assets to Ethereum through some of the popular bridges, let's say Allbridge or whichever is functional, or to Polygon or to BSC, whatever is there, and actually utilize some of the yield strategies over there, and then bridge back to Solana profits and give them. Most of the time, this makes no sense due to bridge fees, but you never know.
Yeah,
Priority is Solana DeFi from what I
yeah.
understand.
Yeah, but I'll borrow your words as well. I think the answer is you never know. For example, we're in discussions with Allbridge as well. Allbridge is definitely in the pipeline for integration as
When it comes to having those strategies being automated for the user and actually having this ability to easily switch between strategies, I assume that for providing this service, you're actually taking a small amount, some kind of fee. There is what's the difference between you taking care of it and selecting the strategy and compounding and claiming and swapping back and doing all these things, versus the user actually doing all these, even if he has the patience and the time
Yeah.
to do it.
Yeah, I think the difference could potentially be 10 plus browser tabs and 20, 30 plus clicks. And
And
not to
many
mention
sleepless nights.
many sleepless nights, and many more, lots of scrolling through different pages and reading a lot of things manually and familiarizing themselves with different DeFi protocols, understanding where the yield comes from, what are the risks, and then manually monitoring all of them as well. So the difference adds. I think it's not as simple as saying like, oh, one's more convenient than the others. It is, in fact, I'd say like the difference and the value proposition is more than 10x more valuable. So I'd say like maybe I won't answer based on like, let's say our opinion on the value proposition, but I'll share user stories of users
In terms of
that,
percentage,
oh, oh
like,
yeah,
are you taking a small cut? This is like a
oh yeah,
0.2%.
oh
What are
yeah,
the
yeah.
fees?
Yeah, I was gonna mention the fees. So for example, deposit rates are 0%. Withdrawal fees are 0.1%, which is on par with what we see with most other Solana DeFi protocols. And then yield performance fee is currently 5%. That means that's 5% of only the yield, not the principal deposit that users deposit. So 5% is way below, let's say, market rates. Usually on Solana, they're 10 to 15%, and on ETH, it's usually up to 20 to 25%. I think that's more a sign of progression and maturity of the market. So yeah, and back again to the difference. So I think sharing the user story is important because we have a lot of users that initially ask or say like, oh, we could do it themselves. Sorry, they could do it themselves. They could deposit directly into the protocols, and we're like, be our guest and feel free to do so. And then, or feel free to try Hawksight as well. Because let's say if, first you need to research a bunch of protocols and manually monitor the APY. And then when you deposit into one of them, maybe that could take 10 different steps. And then let's say you want to withdraw, that's another 10 steps. Or let's say through your manual tracking and monitoring, you realize that, oh, this other pool or this other protocol has better APY now. Then it takes 10 steps to unwind this position, and then another 10 steps to figure out how to deposit in other protocols. So there's value in depositing in one click and then withdrawing in one click. And we had a lot of users share those stories as well. It's like once they started with Hawksight, they can't or they don't want to go back because it's just so much more convenient. And it is worth, say, being charged those kinds of, well, relatively smaller market comparison fees um, for the yield and only on the yield for the yield performance fees.
Do you think that there has been a shift in narrative or in the vision of Solana from having DeFi as its centerpiece? We've transitioned in the past year to the NFT world, and everything revolves around NFTs lately. What do you think changed? We've seen a drastic decrease in liquidity on DeFi protocols across the board, and that's not only for Solana specifically. It's generally, but in Solana, NFT market is still going strong, while lots of DeFi projects are experiencing low liquidity. What do you think is missing here?
Yeah, I think this is a period of natural selection where, the strongest and the fittest will survive. And just like anything in the Web2 space or even in the Web0, like the non-tech space, like a lot of things are cyclical. A lot of times liquidity in the TradFi world is very, momentum and based on cycles and they flow back and forth as well. And so we see this kind of pendulum swing on Solana and other chains as well. And yes, like NFTs are getting a lot more attention right now. And so how we see Hawksight strategically positioned over here is that we're a one-stop shop. So we are in a good position to capture the tailwind or ride on the tailwinds of these different trends. If say crypto lending or let's say liquidity or let's say concentrated liquidity market making is trending, and that is what the user wants, they could do it on Hawksight. But then let's say if there's a lot more appetite on NFT lending, they could do it. They could do it on Hawksight as well.
Yeah, I see, I see, I see. It's important to be able to adapt to market conditions and what the general appetite, as you said, is. Um, but the liquidity is limited, and at the moment, is there are you doing something to incentivize people to use the platform on top of the yields that you are actually combining to create? Is
Mhm.
there an ongoing campaign? Is there some kind of uh, coin that is given, or some kind of extra incentive?
Uh, so yes and no, in the sense that the incentives we provide are more like the usual marketing campaigns, collaborations, and prizes. But there's no like this, or at the moment at least, there's no like strategic or medium term incentivization. Let's say in terms of tokens, and we believe uh, we don't really need to do that at the moment because there's always high yield somewhere. So if we prioritize on, integrating and offering those high yields for users, degens and users will be happy. But going back to your initial question, I'm sorry, I realized I didn't address that. In terms of the low liquidity on Solana and on the other chains as well, just a few weeks ago, I was having dinner with DeFi builders from, let me see, it was ETH Cosmos and I think it was Polygon. Everybody says the same thing. Everybody said, should I expand to your chain or my chain, or his or her chain? And everybody's like, no, there's nothing on my chain. There's no influx of liquidity. Everybody says the same thing. So see, like you said, everybody's experiencing the same issues. But I feel like this is crypto industry wide phenomenon because ever since the Terra crash, FTX crash, and then also cyclical TradFi bear market, so to say. There is obviously like less appetite and less trust, and which means less liquidity injected here. But then there is always a clear path to building that back. It will take time, but the fun and exciting thing about crypto is sometimes these things happen slowly and then all at once. And sometimes you never know. You just have to be prepared.
When you're looking at your target audience, are you looking for existing DeFi users and yield farmers, or you're looking at expanding maybe the pie and onboarding Web2 traditional finance users, because you offer such a beautiful onboarding process with one click and only using USDC and without really getting their hands dirty into various protocols with funny, fruity names.
Both. So we started with the ideal of minting first-time DeFi users, and we stick true to that. But then we realized that there is still, obviously, there's also a very large value proposition to the existing, DeFi degens, active yield farmers, the DeFi veterans as well. So the answer is really both.
Awesome, awesome. Who are you competing? If you're competing with someone on the Solana space, are you competing with Francium's, let's say, a custom yield maker, or there is no other dashboard and application that actually combines all these protocols that you've already incorporated?
Yeah, I know it's very annoying when projects and a lot of startups say, "Oh, we don't have competitors," kind of thing. But we do truly believe, to the best of our knowledge, there is none that is designed in the same way as Hawksight in terms of a one-stop shop in a non-custodial way. Majority of the others that we have seen in the past and present are like let's say centralized vault architectures and whereby it's more like an index where it's like you deposit into one central vault and then that vault distributes into say I don't know 5 different pools or whatever and we respectfully disagree with that approach because we feel like the degens and the users are not able to enjoy the full benefits of the APY of those specific pools. let's say the APY is 8%, if only 20% of the funds are allocated there, you're not enjoying the full APY kind of thing. And if you want to diversify, degens could easily diversify themselves, especially with Solana's cheap and fast transactions. So in that sense, again, our goal is to be the one-stop shop and integrate with everybody. So we don't really see ourselves competing with anybody similar on Solana, at least. I'd say on Ethereum, the closest comparable would be InstaDApp, which brands itself as a DeFi middleware. So we have very similar approaches and vision.
Awesome, 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 awesome.
Mhm.
How do you deal with regulation? Do you need to block users? Do you need to check their geolocation? Uh, how does this work?
Yeah, so as an agnostic platform, it depends on the DeFi protocols integrated. So far, we follow the guidelines of these integrated DeFi protocols. So far, the ones we integrated with don't have specific geo blocking, but we understand eventually we will reach a stage where we will have to look into some of these DeFi protocols that are more regulation sensitive, and then we'll have to align with how these DeFi protocols deal with them, especially with, say, complex and exotic instruments like derivatives and whatnot. So yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. What about audits? I've reading your documentation. I've seen you've already audited your code twice, if I'm not mistaken. Uh, the code gets constantly updated, though. You're constantly working on the code, adding pools, adding functionalities, launching new products, constantly shipping. Uh, do these audits need to be redone? How does that market function? I know for code audits, the queue and the waiting time is very long, and sometimes this can be a problem for moving fast. And sometimes you're gonna have to
Yeah.
break things. So
Yeah.
every time you add something new, do you need to re-audit?
Yeah, so I think not just audits. Audits are obviously not the be all end all. Making sure a lot of people are obsessed with only audits, but obviously there are a lot of other security and safety measures that have to be implemented. So yes, we have been audited. We were audited by both Sec3 and CertIC at different points of time. And then, well, those are external audits. Besides that, we conduct our own internal audits as well. And like again, audits are the best or the easiest way to convey this kind of confidence and comfort to the community. What's harder, but I think that does hold merit and fundamentals here as well, is also just how we design our platform, how we design our internal security measures. Like we see some DeFi protocols that have been audited, but then let's say the upgrade authority is by a multi-sig. So something as simple as, do we use multi-sigs? Yes, we do use multi-sigs. And then another relevant thing is, for example, our truly decentralized non-custodial architecture. So as mentioned earlier, several DeFi protocols have centralized architectures or centralized vaults, which are basically potential central points of failures. If hackers want to target, they just target that honeypot, so to say, right? But then, for example, for Hawksight, similar to Instadat being a DeFi middleware and just routing deposits and funds in a non-custodial way, there's no centralized vault architecture. There's no centralized honeypot. So see, like this kind of intentional system design, we have validated through discussions with a bunch of security experts and other OG builders, DeFi builders on Solana and beyond Solana, that this is this actually like this kind of design is very valuable because, for example, as a hacker, there's no centralized, or someone who wants to exploit as an exploiter, there's no centralized point of failure for Hawksight where they could just hack this vault and drain the funds kind of thing. Um, like in theory, let's say, so right now we have over 450 depositors, I think. There's no way for them to exploit once and then drain all the funds. They have to hack one by one, which makes it economically and just feasible and nonsensical for these exploiters. So that's one design intent that helps boost security greatly. Another one is also the what is it? The deliberate decision to avoid Oracle-based yield strategies because they're constant exploits for oracles, at least in these early days of DeFi. We are not vulnerable to those kinds of oracle exploits.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, the taking the state of the market has been one of the classic ways to drain uh, those pools. I'm glad you've designed it in such a way to avoid such things. Uh, let's talk a little bit about the NFT that you've already launched, the Debonair Gen Hawks.
Mhm.
Tell me a little bit the story behind them and if there are any benefits of holding it. And
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So back to our mission of making DeFi accessible to everyone, and then our goal to mint first-time DeFi users. One very interesting insight that was surprising to us when we first entered Solana was we realized that a lot of the DeFi degens have no idea about NFTs, and a lot of the NFT degens have no idea about DeFi. So when building a DeFi product and targeting a DeFi audience, I wouldn't say solving one side of the problem, but that's targeting one user segment. We want to serve and empower the other user segment, which is the NFT degens. And that's what led us to launch or create and launch the NFT collection. And our goal was to align the incentives and utilities to the DeFi app. I think when we first launched our NFTs, that was when the first wave of utility-driven NFTs were coming up. Before that, it was mostly like about the art, about the brand, and then same thing. These things come in cycles all the time. So we launched during the utility cycle of NFTs. And also back to my earlier point about how we have to constantly adapt the utilities and benefits in different market situations and user or customer appetite as well. We had to constantly adapt the utilities for the NFTs. So for example, right now we are planning an upgrade, which should be coming soon. We've been planning this for several months now. It's not a simple PFP upgrade. But then we will be updating a few different benefits and utilities as well to strongly align the incentives with the adoption of the DeFi app. So a few things we're thinking of is, so for example, as mentioned earlier, instead of the degen pool, instead of the gamified yield aggregator and degen pool and rev share, what if we go bigger with this? We focus on launching an SDK, having an arms dealer approach. Like instead of launching one platform, we launch an SDK to empower a bunch of other platforms, which drives TVL, protocol fees, and value accrual to the Hawksight ecosystem as well. And we strongly align the users, or let's say in this case, the NFT holders, with the overall growth of the Hawksight ecosystem by significantly expanding the token vesting for an extended, significantly expanding the token vesting and also the timeline of vesting as well. So aligning them in a much bigger way in a longer time frame, say 2 years. Therefore, like that is like one very strong focus flywheel of driving adoption of the Hawksight DeFi app, driving protocol fees, which drives buyback for token accrual value. And last but not the least as well is also NFT holders will get discounts on the yield performance fees of Hawksight as well. And we've seen that successful case study in other DeFi protocols that launch NFTs and other chains like Ethereum, Arbitrum. I think DYDX did the same thing as well, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
so the target, the ideal holder of the Hawk NFT is a power user of the DApp. Is a hardcore DeFi guy that wants to use lots of strategies and believes in the success of the platform.
Yes. The power user, and also the curious first time user who wants to, dip their toes into DeFi.
What about coin? You mentioned something about Hawk, which is going to
Mhm,
be a coin, an SPL coin, if I'm not mistaken. How is it used in the
mhm.
platform? Does it have any profit sharing? And again, who is the ideal
Yeah.
holder? Who is the target holder?
Yeah. So the token, so for example, the top token is mostly focused on accrual value. So this is an interesting thing that, we just had this discussion with Fract on an AMA last week and a bunch of other protocols before that too. Like, how does a protocol bake incentives and value accrual to two different things, token and NFTs? Like, what should be assigned to one or the other kind of thing? But long story short, the way we see it is like like specific features, let's say like discounts and whatnot, should usually be for the NFTs. But then for tokens, just in terms of the format or type of asset, tokens are more suitable for let's say value accrual or incentive alignment, not so much about gating certain features or providing access to certain utilities kind of thing. So that's why the tokens will be focused more on financial incentives. So or rewards would be the better term for that. So for example, it is focused on token buybacks. Sorry, value accrual driven by token buybacks instead of, like you said, rev shares.
So this is going to be used at some point for as an incentive for more liquidity into the pools. Uh, is it going to be used for governance or for tailoring new strategies? Give me some examples of how you envision the utility of Hawk in the future.
Mhm. Yeah, governance is it should be a given. That should always be the case for these governance tokens for these dApps. So yes, in the future, for users to have their say on like what kind of protocols, what kind of protocols to prioritize, or where to focus the rewards for different types of yield strategies. But in terms of, say, token emissions, like boosting rewards, that kind of thing, uh, it's possible, but we have no plans for that at the moment. Oh, sorry. Is it just
Yeah,
me or
yeah,
I
no,
can?
no, no.
Oh,
Now it
okay, yeah.
works. Now it works. Sorry. For governance, are you developing your own layer, on-chain layer of governance? Are you using what Solana is building, Realms dot today? What's your plan?
So we do intend to use realms. So we use generally for multi-sig right now we use what is it? You use Squat. But then yes, realms is the only one I personally have tried for on-chain voting so far on Solana.
Yeah, and it is for sure the best one.
Mm,
They've worked quite a lot, and I really like the people that are actually coding it, and their vision for DAOs and the roadmap that's coming for 2023 on chain governance is just mind blowing. Really looking forward
I
to
see.
all the things Realms is going to release. Um, Tell me a little bit about the experience you had with Dean's List, how you actually, if what this DAO, this service DAO actually provided was useful, and if you would recommend it to other protocols.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, I feel like a lot of these, sorry, not a lot of these, but uh, like a lot of builders run the risk of focusing too much on building for the sake of building or building what they think is useful for themselves or based on what's the latest innovation or what's the latest trend. For example, right now there's a lot of talk of AI. But then at the end of the day, we have to focus on the problem, not be a solution looking for a problem. And so we really have to focus on the user. So for example, partnering with a service DAO definitely makes sense because we get to crowdsource a lot of the feedback and just really have a reality check on what users care or don't care about. Because if not, us as builders would just be in an echo chamber, and like I would think this page is cool, this button is cool, this user experience makes sense. But then if 99% of people disagree, the project will not take off. So it's always good to have that kind of um, uh, third person point of view from the outside looking in, and then giving objective feedback.
Awesome. I'm glad the group has provided some value. What about Hacker House events? Any generally, where can people, Solana people and other protocols meet you? Are you going to be present in any of the big hacker houses or
Yeah.
conferences?
We have been in the past few months. We were at Lisbon. I'm mostly based in Singapore, so I've attended two of the Solana hacker houses in Singapore, and there's also Meta Capital in Singapore. I personally frequently go there. Enzo, our co-founder, goes there pretty often as well. And then recently we organized a Solana dev gathering in the Philippines, in Manila. So Enzo is currently in Manila, and Philippines obviously like has huge crypto penetration and a lot of interest in Solana, mostly in NFTs, less so in DeFi for now, and we're hoping to change that. So we just had our first Solana developer meetup last week, which was oversubscribed in the sense like the venue I think could accommodate 30-50 people, but then I think there were 90 signups or something. So they're planning another one in a week or two. I think or closer maybe in March. This time a general Solana meetup, not just for Solana devs in Manila. If that works out well, we hopefully will have some kind of permanent agenda structure, DAO kind of thing in the Philippines going on as but we'll certainly make a presence in a bunch of other kind of hacker houses. Definitely in Singapore. Right now we're looking into Philippines, and we'll see where else in the region.
Beautiful, beautiful.
And
Hopefully,
even in the
hopefully
US.
we'll meet in one of those hacker
We
houses.
haven't met. We need
Uh,
to, yeah.
any shout outs on the Solana ecosystem? Any powerful dev teams? Any good collaborations? Anything that you would like to tell us to actually have our eyes on?
Very tough. Everybody is such a good builder in this space. Everybody is just amazing, and everybody collaborates so well. We have such a like win-win mentality. Like you know, raise the ecosystem up together. I mean, top of mind for us, this is no bias or anything, but it's just simply because we are right now very focused on integrating with Orca and Camino. I think shout out to great communication and collaboration with them. But actually, there's so many others we're in discussions with as well.
Shout out to
Yeah.
Marinade as well, right?
Oh, of course, yes, definitely, yeah.
Dean's List as well.
And Dean's List as well. Too many, too many.
Too many,
Great
yes, yes,
protocol
yes.
as well. I
The
see your
the
merch
the
over there.
Solana ecosystem is it's tribalism without toxicity. It's everybody loves each other. They are sure they've made the right choice, but there is no hate to any other chain towards any other chain.
Yeah.
Everybody's welcome, and everybody's is here to vibe well with the Solana gang.
Yeah, exactly.
You've answered all the community questions, all my questions. You've communicated the vision extremely well. I'm gonna be for sure using the platform. I am from the DeFi side of things. I'm not the NFT your NFT degen type.
NFT degen.
I love DeFi. I love all these strategies and all these connectivity between protocols. So yeah, I'll be hopefully one of your users in the near future. Thank you
Looking forward to
for
feedback.
the time. Thank you for being here and for building awesome things on the Solana DeFi space.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
And yeah, I hope to definitely meet you on one of those upcoming hacker houses.
Definitely, we have
again.
a group, so anytime we can definitely figure out where to meet.
Awesome. Take care.
All right, take care. Bye bye.